What is your worst story from the throw him in the pool he will learn how to swim parenting style? My younger cousin 4 at the time was a climber and always needed help getting down. His dad told his mom to leave him, he will either learn how to get down himself or stop climbing. Cousin ended up climbing onto the roof, fell off and got impaled on a fence pole. One very expensive trip to the and he now has a cool scar on his thigh. My stepmom walked us, me, sister, brother 10-12 deep into the woods and left us there to learn survival skills. We thought we were all out on a hike, then she distracted us and ran away. We wandered into camp hours later. We knew how to get back but searched for hours worried that something had happened to her. She was drinking margaritas and smirking. 2 days after I graduated high school I came home to an empty house, all my stuff in a U-Haul because my mom and stepdad moved without me. I have been financially independent ever since, but a heads up would have been nice. Not my story, but my mom's. She developed a phobia after she was thrown into a pool to learn how to swim. At the age of 70, she still does not know how to. She is terrified of being on the water, even in a safety vest. And then, some fake clairvoyant told her she would die by drowning, so we spent our summers in the mountains as far away from being on water. My mom's whole parenting style was sink or swim, but funny enough, it is when my mom tossed me in the pool. The summer between 1st and 2nd grade my family moved somewhere with a pool. My mom was adamant that I had learned to swim as a baby, so she bought floaties for my younger sister and refused to buy any for me because I already knew how to swim and was too big for floaties. When I refused to get into any part of the pool I could not walk in, my mom called me from outside the pool and promptly grabbed me and tossed me into the 6-foot end. And surprise, I did not know how to swim. I remember splashing twice, hearing my mom yell at me to stop panicking. Then I went under and tried swimming to the surface like I did seen in movies and eventually got my head a bit above water, coughed out a bunch of water and started screaming for help before I went under again. My mom told me to stop making a scene and swim towards the edge. I made it to the edge and could not pull myself out of the pool, so my mom yelled at me to swim to the shallow end. When I tried to grab onto the edge to just pull myself to the shallow ends, my mom kept taking my fingers off the edge and yelling for me to stop playing and just swim. When I finally got to the shallow part, my mom and family just went, "See, you still remember how to swim, you never forget." I was volunteering at a parent-child zoo day, and saw a few parents like this. The zoo had some free-roaming peacocks, and it was awful how many parents just did not tell their too young to know kids that they can be mean. So the little toddler goes, "Wow, pretty bird," and tries to get a closer look, only to get chased and attacked by this thing while the parents watch. Most of them said something like, "You should have known better," like, how if you never teach them, the child can barely walk. You expect them to remember that some animals have a strong territorial sense, and then your baby gets terrorized by this thing that is bigger than them and looks like an alien for all they know, and you do not even give them a hug. See also that one mom we had to kick out of the zoo because she was encouraging her kids to antagonize the llama in the hopes it would spit on them. Yikes. People, have some empathy for tiny humans who trust you implicitly with their well-being. When I was around 11 or 12, 2 kids from the neighborhood got into a street fight. Kid 1 clearly got the best of Kid 2, and Kid 2 was crying and went home. Should have been end of story. Kid 2's parents met him at his front door and sent him back out there to continue to fight. I am not sure if it was about honor or what, but it was painful to watch. What in the actual frick? They threw me in the pool. I drowned. I needed CPR. They let me use my floaties after that. I actually used to be a swim teacher in college and made a ton of money teaching private lessons in people's backyards because of parents who had thrown their kids into the pool to sink or swim. It was usually moms calling me for help because they heard from a friend of a friend that I was able to teach their kid and get them to like the water again in about a month or less. One kid, he was 7, I had to sit with him on the pool deck the whole first lesson and bring buckets of water to him. His dad had dunked him multiple times and insisted that his son would just figure it out eventually because that is how he learned. Needless to say, he was never home when I was there. The mom had me come while dad was at work, 4 weeks later she had me come later in the afternoon so he would come home towards the end of the lesson. His dad saw his son swimming and cried happy tears. He had no idea I had been there 3 days a week for a month. My favorite student was a 70-year-old man who wanted to do a triathlon but never learned to swim because his dad threw him in as a child. It took about 3 months total, a lot of hand-holding on the steps and shallow end, but he finally achieved his goal and I got to cheer him on at the finish line. I still remember how each of my students clung to my arms and clawed at my neck in their first lessons. I never dunked or forced anyone out of their comfort zone. My lessons had to be customized for each student to keep it fun and relaxing. The trauma in their eyes was haunting though. It stayed with me and I never force anything on my kids that they are not ready to do. It is about trust, not force. That basically describes exactly how my parents would teach me anything. It was not really teaching at all. It was showing me once super quickly, then expecting me to fully grasp the concept because I was supposed to absorb that knowledge from observation alone apparently. And when I would not get it on the first time, I would be berated or beat. When I was 6, my parents tried to teach me how to tie my shoes. They showed me super quick once, fast enough that I could not process what was happening, then told me to do it. I did not understand and so they started yelling at me, telling me how I should not even wear shoes because I was so stupid. I did not learn how to properly tie my shoes until I was 18, and I had to teach myself. I still use the bunny ears method. The worst part of that was that people would make fun of me for not knowing how, and I could not explain the situation at home because they would have just thought that I was making excuses. Where I live, we have bags of milk. We have a pitcher where we place the bags. And I usually tie an elastic band around the corner that I snip open. One summer, when I was 5 or 6, I woke up bright and early because my brother was in summer school so I did have the whole morning to myself. I went to make a bowl of cereal, and when it was time to put the milk back my mom tried to teach me how to tie the elastic band to the bag. I did it, but she had told me it was wrong and so beat me and told me to do it again. For the entire morning she would tell me that I was doing it wrong and beat me. By the time I had my cereal, it was noon and my brother had already come home. I do not even think I was doing it wrong because I have been doing it the same way since then. I am pretty sure my mom wanted an excuse to beat me. Just walk it off. My dad, when I developed a big nasty cyst on my toe when my mom was away on a stressful trip, she was not pleased to come back and have to immediately drive me to the hospital. It got to the point where I took one step on it and almost passed out. He apologized afterward, got a sandwich from a really good sandwich place and I forgave him. Now I'll laugh about it. Edit. It was Maria's sub shop in Situate MA. Use A. It is really good. Also I guess this is worth bringing up. My dad is the son of a man who attempted to walk off a gangrenous leg infection that very same year. R.I.P. Grandpa. Oh, I laugh about that too. 7 years old, my dad bought some kind of science kit for my brother and I, which contained a scalpel. When he was showing it to us he said, "Give me your hand." I stuck my hand out without thought and he cut my finger open. In retrospect I don't think there was a lesson to be learned. Every time I asked my parents to explain something as a kid I was told either you are smart, you will figure it out, or you just do not want to do it. Any attempt at maturity was met with either flat-out laughter or being told that I was too young to worry about that. Me turning 18, and suddenly I am expected to be an adult, get a job, pay taxes, and all that jazz. I asked where in the heck do I start, and they got pissy because I apparently had not figured anything out. Wonder why. My dad bought a new house after my parents divorced. Behind us were 2 kids close in age 9-10 I think with me that used to duck with me every time I visited. One day, they hopped my dad's fence, pushed me down and stole my basketball. When I told my dad, he decided to go talk to their parents to get my ball back. Oh wait, that is what normal dads would do. My dad, a former pro boxer, made me fist fight both of them one at a time and earn my basketball back. Edit. Wow, lots of questions. I will try to answer them all. 1. Yes, I had training before that incident. Learning how to fight was non-negotiable to him. He had me learning how to fight before I even started school. I was threatened with punishment if I allowed myself to be bullied. I fought professionally for a while but retired in my 20s. 2. I fought them both one at a time. I definitely won against the first kid, but by the time I fought the second, I was exhausted and he was not. In the MMA combat sports world, we called that the Shark Tank. It is brutal. I was tired in the second fight, so it did not go as well. If it were a sanctioned fight, it would have definitely been a draw. 3. Sadly, growing up with a redneck dad means that I have a tiny redneck living in my brain that not only does not fear conflict, but embraces it. If someone hurts my family, wife or friends, I become the avatar of toxic masculinity. I am in therapy dealing with it, and I have had a couple of relapses, most recently against my wife's co-worker sexually harassing her and me deciding to threaten him at a company Christmas party. Not proud of that, lol. They did not want to teach me to tie my shoes, because my mom said I had to learn that myself. So should you. I was always a picky eater growing up. One time my mom sat me down with a small bowl of almonds and told me I couldn't get up out of my seat until I finished it. I insisted that I hated them and they were making my mouth itch. She thought I was just being difficult. I just started to swallow the almonds like pills because my mouth was so itchy from chewing on them. A couple years later I saw an allergist and discovered I was allergic to tree nuts. This actual thing. I was a lifeguard as high schooler. Some parent did this to their 5-year-old. Parent thought the kid was fine, because he was not splashing around. He was bobbing up and down with his arms going straight up and straight out. That actually means they are drowning. Had to jump in and grab the kid, who had swallowed significant amounts of water, and call an ambulance to check the kid out. Parent did not want us to call the ambulance, but we told him it was the ambulance, or the police, because what he did could be considered child endangerment. Dad was losing his shit, screaming at me. A 17-year-old girl, owner of the pool, saw this. Former Navy dude got up in the guy's face. Parent was banned from the pool for life. To this day, I am convinced the guy was completely hammered. I do not know if this counts, but stop crying or I'll give you a reason to cry. Something my dad used to say to me. It would send me into a panic. I was upset and did not know how to stop crying, and then hearing that would make it worse because now I am crying cause my dad was mad at me, and if I did not stop crying he was gonna make me cry even more. My mom forced me to drink milk and she thought I just hate healthy stuff and only prefer junk food. The thing is, I always loved veggies, but I also like junk food. Basically I love food except for milk. I just could not consume milk. It had make me vomit. In the end I did have sudden acid reflux, not being able to handle it. She thought I was acting to escape, but I just hated it. Turns out I am lactose intolerant, and my mom still thinks I am making that up just because she cannot let go of her ego. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.